Hi. So I have just finished reading The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. Hi, Wednesday. Everyone's here with me. And I am conflicted about it, to be honest. I love her writing. Hamnet was one of my top 10 books last year. It was listed for the Booker and, of course, it won the Women's Prize. Hi. Okay, don't bite the book. It's beautiful. And I DNF'd The Marriage Portrait last year, I think just because I wanted more of Hamnet. And I got you the Canadian version. Look at that cover. And they renamed it Hamnet and Judith. Anyways, I was also conflicted about this until I started reading and got to the amazing... Okay, don't fight! And got to the amazing scene with the tiger. Oh, Wednesday. All right, the struggle is real. You know, the funny thing is Wednesday, when I first discovered BookTube, I could never figure out why everybody was on the floor. I just thought it's a strange thing to want to sit on the floor. And now I get it, because this is difficult. All right, anyways, The Marriage Portrait. Wednesday, stop messing about. Why am I conflicted? It's a beautiful book. I can't believe I DNF'd it, especially with the opening paragraph. The opening paragraph sort of sums up the entire conflict of the narrative. So it starts off with, Lucrezia is taking her seat at the long dining table, which is polished to a watery gleam and spread with dishes, inverted cups, and a woven circlet of fur. Her husband is sitting down, not in his customary place at the opposite end, but next to her, close enough that she could rest her head on his shoulder should she wish. He is unfolding his napkin and straightening a knife and moving the candle towards them both when it comes to her with a peculiar clarity, as if some colored glass has been put in front of her eyes or perhaps removed from them, that he intends to kill her. And I love the conflict in that first paragraph. I love the fact that she's inclined to be intimate with him and rest her head on his shoulder. It's such a nice little scene, but it's always brought back by the conflict that this is someone that she thinks is going to kill her. As I said before, I love the scene with the tiger. I loved what she did in terms of the imagery with painting and portraits. The fact that most of this book takes place while her portrait is being done, her marriage portrait, essentially, yet she is painting herself and she's doing underpaintings and overpaintings and how things have to be hidden and can't be seen and how imprisoned everybody in this world is. The conflict that I had with it was that I thought that the narrative needed to be linear. A good portion of this book skips back and forth between when she's first married and when you know is the time period in which she's going to be killed. And it's not really revealed the exact reason, although you slowly figure it out. The exact reason that she's going to be killed really isn't revealed until the last 30 to 50 pages of the book. So I found it difficult to hop in between the beginning of her marriage, where he's being kind to her and there seems to be a chance of them being in love, to this point where she's terrified and is convinced that she's going to die in the next couple of days. So Wednesday just ripped out all of the post-it notes. Don't eat them. All right, so it was a good book. I didn't think it was a great book, but I'm glad I read it. So on to the next Women's Longlist, which I'm listening to by audiobook, which will be Homesick by Jennifer Croft. Hey there. So I've listened to about half of Homesick by Jennifer Croft, which interestingly enough is partially narrated by her. And I was conflicted going into it because I didn't know if I should be approaching it as nonfiction or as fiction. If you know the reason why it's marketed differently in different parts of the world, please leave a comment below. So if I approach it from a nonfiction point of view, I'm going to know that the narrative is very restrictive and because of the author's experience. And I'm also going to look for the author in the narrative. If I approach it from a fictional point of view, I'm going to question why certain things are in the book, such as why did Maggie O'Farrell always associate dead or soon to be dead tortured animals with the main character? So I started listening to the book, and it was peculiar to me that the author's name isn't in the narrative, because I was approaching it from a nonfiction point of view and looking for the writer. So I think from this point on, I'm going to approach this book as a work of fiction. The author's name doesn't appear in it. She could be either one of the two main characters. And there are very interesting, beautifully written vignettes that alternate between the main narrator and the main narrative when the main characters are small, as opposed to the vignettes that I think are done when she's older, looking back on her life. Anyways, very interesting so far. Fun fact about Jennifer Croft, that not only was she a winner of the International Booker, she was nominated, I think, at least 2 times for it. But she was also an International Booker judge. So, mad accomplishments for her. So, and is this going to be a vlog about the Women's Prize in which all I do is talk about the Booker Prize? Well, hi. So I just finished listening to Homesick by Jennifer Croft, and wow, it's a lot of book. It's a lot of trauma. If anyone is triggered by early childhood trauma, violence, suicide, rape, addiction, this is not the book for you. I feel like I need to go into counseling myself after finishing this book. I said I was going to listen to it from a point of view of fiction, but I didn't. I sort of wavered between both of them, between looking at it from a fictional point of view and looking at it from a non-fictional point of view. If anybody knows why it's marketed differently in different continents, please let me know in the comments below, because I did not figure it out. If I were to look at it from a fictional point of view, I would almost say this is trauma porn. Why would an author choose to keep having all these awful things happen to one character when 1 or 2 things is enough? Which is why I would look at it from a point of nonfiction. And if you look at it from a point of its nonfiction, that these things are true, it's horrifying. It's horrifying what happens to these little girls, how they are so exposed to violence and human nature and trauma, and that they weren't protected. It makes me mad at their parents. So I kind of had to look at it from both point of views. You know, Hana Yonakara's A Little Life was highly criticized for being trauma porn, and I love that book. Those characters have stayed with me for a very long time. So I'm kind of on the fence about that. What I did love about the book was her love of language, how she is so passionate to learn languages and later to translate. I love the play that she had in terms of translated words, particularly that of the title of the book, Homesick. I loved the relationship between the 2 sisters, but her relationship, the main character Amy, her relationship with everybody in that book is so tragic and awful. Another thing I found slightly problematic, and it's because I was listening to the audiobook, is there are photographs, and the photographs are described by, I believe, Jennifer Croft, and it took me a long time to realize that the photographs were done in reverse chronicle order. At least I think they are. I would really like to get my hands on a copy of the book and flip through the images, because I think I've lost a lot of the nuances of the book because they're just being described. There was another weird part where there was a section of Russian being spoken by a male, and there was no translation for that, which is interesting in itself. I thought that the choice of a male voice was very harsh, and maybe it was the voice of Sasha, I don't know. But I thought that if Jennifer Croft had narrated that bit of Russian, would have been so much more meaningful to me. But it was interesting just to learn to, it was interesting to listen to the language itself without knowing the meaning. And there's a lot to be said about a book in which you want to go back and reread because you know that you will get more from it. Anyways, yet again, a good book, not a great book. I had conflicts about it, but I'm glad I read it. So I'm going to end this vlog here. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. If you're so inclined, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.